All right, so for this week's episode, I'm going to let y'all know right now, it's going to be edited into at least 3 parts. We went for so long. And since I got to edit the whole thing, I'm not going to fucking edit a whole hour and, what was it, like an hour and 30-minute conversation? I'm not editing that for one episode, though. So this is going to be split into 3 parts. Thank you for just jiving. All right. What's up, everybody? What's good? What it do? Welcome everyone back yet to another episode of Just Jiving. Here with your host, Tarek. Today, I have the illustrious, wonderful Sir Bradley in the building. Oh boy, I'm so excited. Hello, Bradley.
I tell you what, given my week, that's the best compliment I've had so far. I'm illustrious.
Yes, sir. What? Oh, did you have a bad week, bro? You good?
No, I didn't have a bad week, but I had a very interesting, awakening as to how people view me in certain situations. Couple days in a row at work, so it was fun.
We might have to get into that. That's interesting.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, well, anyway, you already know before we begin, son, remember to share, subscribe to the podcast, follow it, do all the stuff. Do all the stuff. I hate plugging. I'll be honest, I fucking can't stand it. It's so annoying.
You don't date many women, right?
No.
I'm big on sexual innuendo.
I see what you did there. But no, I just can't stand it because it's just like, oh, y'all know what to do already. If you listen to this shit, blah blah blah.
But if you don't remind people that, right? I have a podcast. I have social media surrounding it, and I still forget to ask people to like and share and all that. And when I forget, so do they.
You're right. You know what? It's fine. It's fine because I'm going to continue to do it. I'm going to try to do it. Subscribe, Instagram, Just Jiving, Facebook, Just Jiving, all that shit. You know what it is? I'm also very high right now. I just came from recording probably like 20 minutes before you came here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. Because when I walked in, I thought you might have just woken up.
No. So I actually got about like a minute and a half to sleep on that couch right quick before you came. I'm like, oh, this is nice. And then I'm like, I know as soon as I sit down on this couch.
Right, that's when it happens.
Yes, and that is what happened, but that's okay because I was able to get everything nice and done because I know that you was on a time limit. Let's crack open these beers, sir. What you drinking, Bradley?
I've got the Rails End Blood Orange Double IPA. It is by far one of my favorite beers.
I remember when you brought me to Rails End, actually, and it was fucking fantastic, bro.
That's actually why I grabbed a couple of these.
Smart man. Smart man. And you got a Rogue. I don't know if you knew that I loved Rogue Dead Guy Ale.
If you love beer and you don't love Rogue Dead Guy Ale, you don't love beer.
This is true. It's so good. I love this beer. So I was really excited when you brought it. Now, Brad, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to ask you what the fuck we was talking about today. So,
well, you know what was funny about that is I asked you last week or 2 weeks ago when we started talking about it. I said, what do you want to talk about? Or do you want to just kind of go with it? And I remembered you had either posted it on Facebook or you said it in one of your episodes that when you have guests on, people always want to know what they're going to talk about, And you hate that because you just want to be able to talk.
This is also true, but that's why I got this little.
Oh, you got the thingamathingy.
I got the thingamathingy. Go ahead.
Oh, wow.
Go ahead. Pick a motherfucker
I get to
out of
pick
there.
the topic?
You goddamn right you do.
Haha.
Let's see what happens here today. And by the way, cheers to you, Sir Brad.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, absolutely, man. I'm fucking hyped to have you here. It's been so long since we said we were going to fucking do this. And now we finally have in almost February 2022.
Well, and yeah, I mean, as a group, we did episodes together.
Yeah, I had all 3 of y'all on. You right. What's the word?
Imagination.
Squidward, we don't need television. Not as long as we have our imagination.
Imagination! Oh, boy, okay.
Isn't that like a GIF? Where with the rainbow or something, right?
A GIF?
A GIF?
A GIF. That's the first time I heard it called that. I think I'm gonna start calling
Well,
it that.
I want to make sure that I include all people in their pronunciations. So.
I think that it's pronounced GIF only because, G. It's
Right.
GIF.
Because it stands for G stands for graphic.
Right.
Right. So yeah.
That's exactly what I thought. So whoever's, you know what? We ain't even gonna get started on that. Imagination. Is it linked to creativity? Like, do you need to be a creative motherfucker to have a wide imagination, or are those mutually exclusive?
Everyone has some form of an imagination, right? And some people's imaginations are much more creative, but I don't think you have to have one to have the other.
You're right, because you could spend a lot of time imagining like a scenario and how it could go wrong and all of those things. That requires imagination, not necessarily creativity, though.
Right. A lot of that, I think, also depends on how much time you spend on the thing. And so, for instance, I'm starting to develop a story right now. And
you write?
Yeah. And I write it's so sporadic. I am not a diligent, dedicated, okay, I'm going to wake up in the morning, I'm going to journal. I'm going to go sit at my computer. I'm going to make sure I write 20 minutes a day. Like I don't do it in that way, but I do write. So I'm developing a story right now, and I have a friend who I'm developing it with because he is a screenwriter and he knows how to write it as a script. And in talking about things, his creativity level is right there at the surface, right? He can start firing off all sorts of ideas that for me, I have to actually start getting into it. I may, in my brain, have a whole bunch of scatterbrained ideas of things that happen. I'm like, ooh, this would be cool. And maybe they're creative. But for me, I need to develop it by actually sitting down to work on it. Whereas other people, it's at the surface.
I know what you mean. It's funny because for me, I may be creative and all that stuff, but imagining things like from my brain is really, really hard. Like I have to start doing it, and then the picture starts forming. It's like, oh, okay, you should try this, you should do this, blah, blah, blah. But to imagine it beforehand, bro, like every art piece I've ever done, it just starts with like lines and scribbles. I'm like, I know what I want to do, but I have no idea how to fucking do this shit right now because I can't imagine it in my brain, yet I'm creative enough to try to figure it out.
To work it out,
yeah,
for sure.
Exactly. Like taking all these puzzle pieces, like, oh, okay. Like I'll show you when we're done here. I'm working on this one art piece with like mountains and shit. And when I tell you that I could not figure this shit out, I've been working on it for 3 weeks. And I just now I'm like, okay, it's decent. You know what I'm saying? Like it's okay. Like I'm just, bro, I'm like, when you get that thing where your eyes hurt from you fucking staring at the screen all day? That's what I've been doing for like 3 weeks. My eyes have been fucking killing me. I'm just like, bro, like, son, you need to take a break or just finish this piece or some shit. But like, the thing is that I like to try to imagine things, but I don't really, I don't see it. You know what I mean? It's weird. I don't see things in my brain. I hear things. If that makes sense.
It does make sense. Because some people, it's like anything else, right? You're a visual learner, or you're an auditory learner, or, creativity, imagination, those things happen similarly, right? So most anyone, like if I say, imagine yourself sitting on a beach at sunset, right? You're not, I don't know, maybe you are. Are you hearing that? Or can you actually see a picture in your head?
So for that, only because I've done a lot of imagining of that, yes.
That's what I want in life.
I had, because it reminds me of this. I was in Puerto Rico once and we was on the beach and the sun was setting. That's like the first time that I ever got to chill on the beach during the sunset and watch it go down. That was actually pretty cool. So since I saw that, now I can imagine that. You know what I'm saying? If it was, I don't know, if it was before that, I'd probably be like, sort of. Like I can kind of see the colors, you know what I'm saying? Only because like I work with colors a lot in my art, so I can see the colors of it, but to like imagine like the setting and the whatnot, like nah, I'd have to like literally build it piece by piece on like a piece of paper for me to actually see it and shit.
So that brings up a question of the difference between imagining something that you have seen and know, and you're re-imaging it in your head, versus creating / imagining something new that you've never seen, right? Like if I say to you, can you picture an alien dragon with 18 heads but only 4 toes, right? Like that's something new and different that maybe you haven't seen. Can you picture that? Or do you have to now get creative in order to imagine it?
Yes, I would have to get my creative thing out and like get mad references. I would have to find dragon references, get mad heads. Cause now I'm thinking like the Hydra. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like I'm thinking that, but like on
something
like a
out
dragon
like D&D
body.
or
Yeah. It's really hard to like my brain can't. It's weird because I love visual art so much, and yet I can't fucking see shit.
Yeah.
I can't see anything. Everything in my brain is like it's like a narration kind of. And if there was to be some kind of visual aspect to it, then it comes after the narration part. Like I'm always narrating some shit in my head. Either that or music is playing. You know what I'm saying? So maybe like a song will play and I get some random scene in my head. And it's like, oh, that'd be cool. That'd be something to draw, do some shit with. But nah, I've always sucked at like coming up with something straight from the dome. You know what I'm saying? Like I need mad references. I need to study this shit. I need to pay attention to what it is that I'm looking at and try to recreate it in my own kind of way. I always envy those artists that is just like, oh, I made this straight from the head. It's like, word?
That stuff blows my mind. And I mean, it can be music or, some sort of, mixed media art or a written piece. For me, I'm actually slightly different than you, where I see images in my head all the time. And then the difficulty for me is, how do I put that into words? How do I narrate that? And that's part of the reason why it's so difficult for me to sit down and write, because I'm seeing the images in my head all the time. And then when I have to actually sit down and describe them, to me, that's tasking. I think that when you are trying to come up with something, was it A Beautiful Mind, when he's talking about like something, truly original? Have you seen that movie?
I have not seen that movie, sir.
You should watch it. You'd enjoy it. It's very mental.
It's very mental.
But if you have to come up with something very original, it's extraordinarily difficult. And we don't deal with originality very well. If you think about it, when we look at movies and TV and the stories that we write and that we love, they're almost all, the ones that we eat up really quickly are the ones that have been told a million times, but in different ways. But the theme of the story is something that is highly relatable, we know and we understand. When you all of a sudden get a movie or a TV show that is told in a different way, like that's actually truly an original type of storyline, we don't take to it as quickly. Those tend to be, the cult films or the cult TV shows, right? Where they're just not right there at the top layer that we all understand. There's something deeper to them, and it takes us longer to get there.
That makes sense. Have you ever seen Over the Garden Wall? It was on Cartoon Network.
No.
Okay. Well, because when you said
I was thinking it was that was a movie with what's his name?
No, it wasn't a movie. I mean, it could have been made into one.
Actor whose name I can't even remember right now. But
Well, when you said that, it just made me think of that show because, number one, not a lot of people know about it. Number two, it is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. But number three, which what you said, the way it tells the story is not really typical of an average cartoon. You know, like there's a lot of, there's a lot of children's shows that have dark adult undertones to them, but this one is like really in your face, but they do such a good job that you don't even realize it.
Was it meant to be an adult or?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. I believe only because of the struggles that the main character goes through, and then you see the antagonist as well, and then you understand what he's about. Just those kind of things like, I don't think this is made for children.
You know what I think about children is that they are the best at figuring out how to enjoy the way a new story is told. My kids absolutely love the TV show Adventure Time, and I don't quite get it. I mean, I get it, but it is not.
Wait. What you mean you don't get it? What you mean?
So
what's to get?
Well, the first 5 seasons of the show are really random. I mean, every episode is like,
yes,
it is like honestly, it's like your idea jar.
Yes.
Right? It's a whole bunch of stuff was written down into it, and then it's like you're playing Yahtzee or something. You just throw it all out there, you see what's there, and then you somehow figure out how to put that into a story. Right?
Mm-hmm.
There a lot of things go unfinished, untalked about, unsaid. It's like they brought this up. It's like, well, why they even bother bringing that up if they're not going to finish a thought? But a lot of that, honestly, is like, that's kind of how our brains go. That's how my brain goes a lot. Like, I mean, I'm super fucking ADD. And so my brain goes in a million places. But when kids watch this show, a lot of those unfinished thoughts or it doesn't matter to them. It's okay because ultimately there's some other story that's in there that I'm not seeing, that I'm not getting. But my kids take to it immediately. They understand it. They get it. They can't wait till the next episode. And those episodes are like 12 minutes long,
mm-hmm.
right? And so they devoured that series. I started watching it with my son a few months ago because I really wanted to understand. I mean, and look, the series has already been over for like 2 years or
mm-hmm.
something, but I wanted to understand what exactly was going on. And I do find entertainment in it, but it's a new type of storytelling to me that's sporadic. It's all over the place. And I don't get why they do this thing or that thing, but the kids get it. The kids are
Have you watched
sponges.
The entire series before?
I haven't gotten through. No, I'm
okay.
I went through. So I got through season 1, and then my son just kept on going without me. But we were supposed to be watching it all over again together. He just kept on going. So then, I step in somewhere in season 2, a little bit of season 3. Like I've seen a little bit from every season, but I don't, like the whole story didn't get to me. But it was also explained to me by my teenager that they don't even really seem to have a cohesive storyline until season 6. And that's when it's really like, okay, let's take everything that we've done from these first 5 seasons. Now we're going to take all of those little bits and pieces and we're going to weave them into something cohesive until we get to an end.
Yeah, I love that they did that. Because you were right. The first few seasons are just like wild and sporadic and all that stuff. But also, since I watch a lot of anime, it's like, okay, well, either this is just going to be a random show about random shit, or eventually they're going to start to, put the pieces together, which is what they decided to do. Sometimes they don't do that. Sometimes it shows you just like, it's just going to be fucking random and shit, which is what I also love about cartoons and animation and all that, if we're going to talk about imagination, good sir, then we need to talk about cartoons and animation, because I am in the camp that you cannot do nearly as much as you can with live action as you can with animation. There's so much more you can do with like color and just the style of how you draw it and whatnot, and to evoke the emotions, all that stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, so for me, I grew up with cartoons. I grew up with comic books. I was waiting for all of the comic book movies to happen, and it really wasn't until the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, when they had the really good the ability to do the really good computer animation to make Spider-Man do the things that we know that he could do, because it was in a comic book or it was animated in a cartoon, and humans simply just don't have the abilities to do those things. So once you're able to then animate it into, digitally animate it into a movie, yeah, I mean, the creativity, the imagination, it's blown wide open.
This is true. I don't want to sound too biased. It's just that I've always enjoyed the animated superhero movies and shit way more than the cinematic ones. And it's because you could just tell. It's like, yeah. Maybe it's because I spend a lot of time looking at weird shit. Like, oh, that stance is weird for that power move that you did. Why would you look like that? You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, but that...
Why is there always the superhero landing?
Yeah. Or some shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, why all this stuff? It just makes me question things, and I'm able to see it more so with the cinematic shit. However, I don't want to just shit on it. I don't want to just shit on it and just be like, oh, well, it ain't good enough with the animated ones. I just watched so many of the animated ones. That's probably why.
From a cultural, socio-anthropological perspective, what is it about these stories, these tellings, the cartoons that we watch, the comic books that we read, the stories that really speak to us, right? There's something in there. And ultimately, I'm going to just turn around. I'm going to also answer this question for myself. It's, if I see a superhero or a character in a cartoon or a comic book that I really enjoy, it's because there's something relatable, or there's something wish-wondering that I'm like, oh, I see this and I want to be able to do this. I wish that I was like this person. This person has attributes and characteristics. And it's easy enough to read that in a comic book. It's easy enough to see that in a cartoon. But then for me and for millions of other people, when you then turn it into a live action, it's suddenly taking that next step into a possible reality, right? Because now, not only do I see some part of myself represented in a comic book or in a cartoon, but there's a real person on a screen. Granted, tons of movie magic, tons of, animation that goes into it and all sorts of things. But there's now a real person playing this character that I have loved for, however long, I or anyone else has seen these superheroes or these, grandiose characters. But that now makes it even more relatable to me.
So you need to see the actual person for it to have that extra magnitude or significance to you.
Need to, or just
well, no, I'm
right?
not saying that like you need them to relate to them, but you're saying that seeing that live person takes it to that extra level for
absolutely.
you.
Absolutely.
I've never had that. I've never seen someone on the screen like, oh my God, now it's like, okay, now this shit's real. You know what I'm saying? Like the cartoons and the voice acting and that shit was enough for me, I guess. Because just the fact that you can convey emotion with just your voice has always just been fantastic to me. And then someone else who is in the animation department is taking that and actually animating it to make it look and feel like that. That's always been dope for me.
So here's what I see. So have you watched any of the Marvel?
I have only seen Iron Man 2, Guardians of the Galaxy, and the new Spider-Man movie that just came out.
Okay. So for me, you know who the Winter Soldier is?
Yes.
Okay. So for me, when you're talking about, voice acting and the emotions and things that can be expressed through that mixed with the artwork that goes into creating a cartoon or an anime, for me, my favorite things to watch are not even the dialogue pieces. The action sequences are great, but I love facial expressions. I love the acting that is created without anyone fucking it up with words. And I think, to me, the best, and certainly it's at the top of my brain ever since it happened, the best 15, 20 seconds out of all of these Marvel things that I've watched, and I've watched all of them over and over again, is in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And I think it's episode 4 or 5, when Sebastian Stan, who plays Winter Soldier, it's the very beginning of the episode. It's a flashback to when he's having his brainwashing undone. And there are like a series of words that turn him into, the brainwashed Winter Soldier. So they're being repeated to him. And it's just camera on his face. And his face goes from this intensity, this fear. He's starting to cry because he does not want to become the monster murderer that he's been turned into through brainwashing. And he's not saying anything, but the words are getting spoken one at a time that trigger him. And as it doesn't happen, his face goes into this relief, I was so tired. Now I'm relieved. I'm free and I'm happy. I can live a normal life as it is for anyone in the comic book world. But his face goes through all of those expressions in a matter of 20 seconds and he doesn't say a word. And the camera's just on him the whole time. And to me, like that, like seeing, you can get that from a person, you can't get that from a cartoon. The technology isn't there.
I contest that with one example. And after you watch this, at least the first episode of it, come back to me.
Okay.
And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it.
And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the